Oh, I'm my own Python. Okay, this is the one we want. Okay, um, there we go. Okay, okay. So we spent a bunch of hours going through several of the deliverables last night. We've still got Team 3s to deliver on. But a few remarks. So most of the projects, say all the projects, are in a state that I consider reasonably decent. Certainly, I don't have any grave concerns about any one of them. There are reasons for caution and needs for sort of care for the next deliverable, particularly on all of them. And I'll try to provide some particular remarks about this. One issue that was common to all that was problematic during our session was the fact that the deliverable as provided didn't make it really easy to go find the items which were being turned in. In one case, we got a URL provided, which to get to Google Drive, which we went to, and we saw maybe 5 documents in a subfolder of stakeholder meetings, and we said, oh well, they're missing this, they're missing that, and so on. And only later did we discover, if we go through the GitHub, there were 3 links at the bottom, and through those links you could get to a Google Drive site, which had a much broader set of contents, including some of the things that were required. Things like the task roles, for example, or things like risk plan, or what have you. So the point is, it took a lot of time, and as you know, time has value. There's opportunity cost for things. So for the next bunch of deliverables, I'll be very explicit. A key desiderata, a key thing that's desirable and that will be rewarded in terms of the allocation of marks will be making it really easy to find the items that have been updated and that are being turned in for this deliverable. Someone could get the left button back there. That would be great as you face the wall. Thanks. So, this is not to blame your groups. I didn't make it very explicit, but we really do need a nice README file that would say these things have changed, particularly going forward, and these are links to the appropriate deliverables. I think we got the issues largely straightened out about GitHub access and existing GitHub names or what have you, but you should make it very easy for us to come market, and you'll be rewarded for that. Okay, so that's for the next deliverable. Just keep that in mind. Put in some time to having a nice clean hand-in overview as part of it. You might even think, given the size of your projects, you might even think about having someone assigned to manage the documents, because the documents get pretty discombobulated after a while. Sometimes they get out of date. There's multiple copies of them in different places. There's some in GitHub, and then there's others on Google Docs, other copies of the same document, or what have you. And having someone who puts in some time to make sure they stay consistent and so on, especially before a hand-in, might be a good use of one of your person's time. I'm not suggesting a full-time position by any means, but I'm suggesting something that will help you keep track of all the documents. There are going to be a lot of them. Already there are, and there's going to be a lot more yet. Okay, so think about that, and we'd particularly like to see a README file that it's a cargo manifest. It says this is the stuff that's available, this is the stuff that's changed. We were poking around your Subversion repositories, trying to figure out what's where, and okay, there's this UI test, and then there's this other test that didn't seem to be tests, just like comments and functions, and there were There were other places once you poked around where more interesting content was found, and it was, frankly, it was a waste of time to do it that way. Just lay it out for us where the important things to the repository. Several of you have different branches, right? There's a develop branch, there was a master branch, and there was another branch, I don't remember what it was, for I think group 2. And that wasn't immediately obvious. We were searching around one that wasn't that fruitful and only discovered, oh, okay, it's in the other ones. There's a link to, it said link to repositories, and it actually linked to the site itself on Firebase. It said repository link.
That's just the way GitHub does links. It's kind of confusing, I agree.
It's pretty confusing.
There's the repo description and then the link.
And so I thought, well, what the heck? I'll just press this. And I said, okay, this group has no, they have no demo to show us. They have no way of showing us the functionality of the system. It's probably not yet implemented. And I was about to, I think I did 0, and that part of the market mentor, I said, oh, okay, I'll click it. Let me just try clicking on this link. Maybe it'll bring me to another repository. Oh, there's the system. Oh, this is cool. You can type something in here. It updates on your browser. Okay, that was pretty neat. I still don't get the 111111 thing, but that's for other discussion. The code has all these long lists of ones as the path for many items, and I don't grok it. I don't know if it's the same 111 that's filled in the test fields by default.
I think that's going to be a health card number. There's probably the health card number.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it wasn't obvious to me. There's a lot of hard-coded stuff. There were also huge disparities in the number of check-ins from different individuals. I watched those too with some interest. And I remember there was one team where 3 people were the only ones listed as having checked things in at the repository. And you could look over time at each person's contribution, right? I must say that Bert, you put in a lot of time in the last few days, particularly. But what was remarkable is that the amount of codes checked in and lines of code differed by orders of magnitude. And some people had very few check-ins, but 4,000 lines. And I don't think there were 4,000 lines in the whole repository, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. But and then others, I checked in a huge amount of stuff, but it said 10 lines. So I don't know. I'm a little bit confused. Maybe it's counting a Word document as 1,000 lines. I don't know.
This is our bootstrap CSS file.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty empty.
Yeah. I browsed the CSS, but quickly made my way elsewhere. Okay. So that was fun. I got to see your systems. Please provide access to the deployed system at the time of the report to me. And it's going to take a couple days for us to get around to browse it, so make sure it doesn't break. You don't want us to browse it 2 days later and find that it's non-functional. So I would suggest having a hand-in deployment that is put there and that's unmodified by later builds. So it's not just your latest build, because your latest build may, judging by some build reports, it may be broken sometimes. We actually thought it was, that's a broken build. At least they're doing something. It's not a bad thing. Another thing, big absence, which is understandable right now, but it's going to be a big push for ID2 that we really want to see. No ifs, ands, buts about it. There should be solid tests that are starting to be put into place right now. I get the fact that you're dealing with spike prototypes. I'm pretty impressed with where the teams are at right now with spike prototypes. Good stuff, and that's where your risks have been, and that's where you put your effort, rightly so. So I'm happy with that. You basically tested the functionality, whether it's Firebase or Google Real-Time API. You've been putting your efforts into that core logic, or whether it's kind of getting iOS development in its basics, right? That's good stuff. But now the rubber's going to meet the road as far as testing and functionality is concerned. For that group on the iOS side, I do think that there's going to have to be a lot of thinking about how the syncing works. Fortunately, these other two groups, I think you two groups have done a great job basically with the middleware concerns, right? Like achieving the syncing between different clients and so on. How are we going to get that transported data back and forth so two different people in different browsers see common understanding of what's in the fields. So if I type in one field, you see it, or if I drag in a Vadarian head, that others can see it, right? Can see his fearsome mien. So that's good, but I think the iOS team really has to put some effort into making sure the middleware issues get some focus the next round. You've been dealing with a different set of risks and a different set of learning curves, and I respect that, and I think you've done very well with that. But for the next round, I would say a big looming risk is indeed this one involving the middleware, making sure that the syncing as required, so that the cleaner sees the updated state as just entered by the am I confusing groups? Group one? Group one, right? Yeah. So they see consistent views of things. You're going to want to have that exchange of information just as the other two groups do. And they've done it in Firebase and they've done it in real-time API. Those are two methods to get it done. But you're going to want some way of doing it without building it yourself, because you're not going to get it done reliably if you build it yourself. Okay, so I would push on that. So for the next rounds, we really want to see solid tests and implementation starting to be developed. A lot of spike prototype code now, great. Sometimes not a lot, but some that proves the basic functionality of the system. That's excellent. But now we're going to start producing some serious implementation effort, and there needs to be the tests that follow along with it. I will not tolerate tests that lag development, greatly. So you turn in and you say the test will come next time, because guess what? They don't come next time. They never come. I have waited for them many times. It's like waiting for Godot. They never come along. So please put efforts into keeping your tests up to date with your implementation. And if that means having testers sit alongside developers, do it. Because it'll be worth it. What do I expect to see for tests? This is what I expect to see. Here's the inventory. The teams are pretty good at checking out what was on that syllabus for what was required for ID1. That's great. You should do that for ID2. I'll probably update the items a little bit to make clear that I need a README and so on. These are what I want test-wise. I want to see at least some manual tests, but not just vague ideas, like test cases. We're going to test this, this, and this. We're going to put it through this use case, that use case. You folks in ID1, your team has done a great job with use cases. My hat is off to you. I mean, that's great. You had many use cases written out, and they were very well done. You should be able to put those into some tests, okay? End-to-end tests, so some manual tests, but I want to see automatic tests. I want some plans for UI testing and programmatic tests. What do I mean by programmatic tests? I mean a test harness, which could be called, among other things, as part of a build. After the build succeeds, sorry, I should be careful. After the compilation succeeds, you should run a set of tests. And the first and premier amongst them is the smoke test, right? It's a test to make sure it's basically, the system isn't hosed, that the system is basically in a sane enough state as worth distributing to people. Its job is not to find bugs, it's to make sure it's stable enough to be worth distributing. Beyond that, you should have programmatic tests that are system nature, should be a column there. System-wide nature that will have a test harness, and it calls off the pieces of the program just as if the user were clicking buttons. But it's actually not going through the UI. It's a test. I think you folks did in previous classes JUnit. Is that right? Where did you do JUnit? How many people have done JUnit testing before?
270.
270? Okay, how about 370? What did you do with 370 for test harnesses?
The class kind of ran out of time to get to testing.
Waiting for Godot. I feel Professor Duchin's pain. Oh, okay. So you're saying the class ran out of time to get to testing, or the projects ran out of time to deliver the testing?
Both.
Okay. Wow, that hurts. Okay. Did you talk about JUnit or NUnit or any of those other frameworks in that class? No. You saw it in 270 though, right? Yeah?
I do.
No? Okay, well, get thee to a YouTube video quickly on JUnit. JUnit testing, it's conceptually straightforward. These days, because of annotations in Java, it's quite easy to do. You can annotate up which things are tests in your program, and it uses Java reflection to say, for this program, which things are tests, and can actually use that information to simplify. You don't have to, in the old days, you'd have to name things certain ways or what have you. But basically, you can write test harnesses in JUnit that will test out pieces of the system, that will call manually, passing arguments that will test things. And I would encourage you to make heavy use of that. You know, there's JUnit, there's NUnit. If you're using JavaScript, as at least two of the teams are here, I would use JavaScript tools, things like Jasmine for testing, JS Mockito for mocking. I do expect mocking. I do expect mocking type frameworks, hopefully for ID2. And you know, for coverage testing, for testing code coverage, something we'll be talking about today, you could use blanket.js or JS cover, Istanbul. These are all different JS coverage tests for JavaScript. Okay, so there's tool sets for that. There's tool sets on the Mac side. There's tool sets for Java. Several mocking tools, Mockito and JMock are two strong ones. No shortage of testing tools. So please, for ID2, put a big emphasis on getting some things tested. They should be at the unit level. I didn't see a lot of unit tests. I didn't see a lot of unit testing with this deliverable. Okay, spike prototypes, I get it. But for the next round, I want to see if you're writing code, there should be some unit tests. And similarly, there should be some integration tests where you're testing different things play together nicely. Pairwise compatibility is something which came up with Group 3, right? Group 3 has moved beyond the Vidarian visage to the red rectangle.
We're thinking of going back.
What's that?
We're thinking of going back.
Okay, well, I won't protest. But while it's moved beyond that, another thing you're confronting is making certain technologies play together nicely, right? Are you going to be able to have the Google real-time API play nicely with that other API that you had talked about? And so, what was the name again? Joint.js. So, you know, doing some integration testing there will be important, but in other pieces of your system, things fall through the cracks. When different people hand in different pieces of the system, that's often where code gets duplicated, or code doesn't get written that needs to be, or there's different assumptions. So do some integration tests, things play together nicely, and system tests. So just to be very clear on this, what's an integration test and a unit test if you have a module that depends, so you've written A, and it depends on B, C, and D. It calls off to them, for example, right? Or maybe it's passed for a callback. It calls to this common in Firebase. Is call that. How would this be tested as a unit test? What would you do?
Make sure that A handles the proper data correctly.
Okay.
And then integration would make sure that they're passing the right data between them.
Okay, so that's part of it. But how would you handle? I mean, A is calling B. How would you unit test it alone?
Mock it.
You'd mock it. You'd use mocking to mock these out. And you might put in some declarations in Makita, for example, to specify that B should expect, a certain method should only be called once by A, or it should be called with a non-negative argument, or a non-null, or what have you. It should be called with a hash table that's not empty, or what have you. But the point is, you mock these out, and that allows you to write A. Mark my words, write A before these guys are written, right? Before these guys are complete, you could write A. So mocking those out has some benefits other than testing it in isolation. It also has the benefit of further allowing you to proceed with the testing of this before these guys are written. By integration tests, however, typically what you're going to be testing is that they actually work with the real implementations of these guys. Is it playing nicely together with these? And there's lots of reasons why people could have been perfectly reasonable in their construction of each one in isolation, but they don't play together nicely. Each of them made reasonable assumptions, but something fell through the cracks, didn't get implemented at all, something got duplicatedly implemented, or it could be that A is characterizing something one way, C is expecting it to be characterized a different way, and they don't play together because they have different conventions. In any case, please put your emphasis into thinking about how mocking will be used for your systems, particularly where you are depending on large layers of code. Having mocking layers will help that. I was quite impressed with one of the teams. Team 2, I think it was, had a quite nice testing document. I was pretty impressed with. I think the other team, Team 1, that I reviewed last night, I think it had more in the way of testability thoughts and how we're going to test it, but it didn't yet have test cases to put it through and so on. But I have to say, Team 1, all the use cases could be put into good test cases, or at least a lot of them. Test harnesses will be essential for this and mocking, and I do expect to see code coverage metrics. I want to see what fraction of the code are test region. This doesn't have to be done for ID2, but it would be nice if it could be. Okay. That was a bit on the deliverables. I'll be working on Team 3's analysis of their work products tonight or tomorrow night, and see what I can get you. Okay, it takes a couple hours to go through this. I was here till about 10 o'clock last night. Fun. Okay, it was actually quite interesting. Okay, any questions on this? Any questions on expectations here? I think you folks are in pretty good shape, but I would put the emphasis into some of these things I've noted. Nothing right now? Okay, great. So I will stop this recording.